Okay, we will begin. Welcome to our Bountiful City Council meeting tonight, Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, and we will begin with a Pledge of Allegiance from Gary Davis.
Normally I'd say on your feet, but I'll just say please rise. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Gary. And we've asked Beverly Ward to offer our opening prayer and or thought. Thank you.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful that we can meet here together this evening as a community, that we can be able to honor the work of Jesse Bell, as well as now looking for someone to carry on his work and the work of the other members of the council and the leadership of Bountiful City. We ask for thy Spirit to be with us here in a spirit of cooperation and good feelings, and a way to understand which ones that are applying tonight will be able to help lead our city in a direction that would be good for all of us. We're grateful that we have so many good candidates to choose from and so many good people who live here in Bountiful. And we ask for thy Spirit to be with us. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you so much for that prayer. My name is Kendall Ann Harris. I'm the mayor, and I will now turn the time over to our city attorney, Brad Jepson, who will explain the process of how this process will go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We've been through this once before during a study session, but we're going to remind everybody as we prepare to actually do it today. So what we're doing today, replacing a municipal officer midterm, it's very set by statute. A few things to remember: even though we do have a mayor, we are defined by statute as a six-member council form of government, which kind of lays out how our process will work for us. The statute's been amended 3 times. That's why it's a little bit different than it was back when we did this, I believe in 2018. Is that right, Kate? So the statute allows for interviewing of candidates. We have a little discretion in how that's done. How we've chosen to do it is we've chosen to randomly select from a bowl by our city recorder names. We'll go in order. They'll have 3 minutes. There'll be a timer here. After 3 minutes is up, the council can ask any follow-up questions, and then we will draw another person's name and they can go. If we draw a name and they do not respond, that person will no longer be eligible and we'll move on to the next name. Once we get done with that, we will have a round of voting. In order to be selected as the next council member, a person needs a majority vote. We have 4 original voters, and then the mayor is a tie-break vote. So in order to have a majority vote, that person will need 3 votes. If in the first round of votings, one person gets 3 votes, then we're done. And we will have to meet with Sean and me for just a moment, but we will adjourn, and then we will prepare to be sworn in next week. If no candidate receives a majority of the votes, then we will select the 2 candidates to get the most votes to advance to the second round. There are 2 possible tiebreaker scenarios. There's a 4-way tiebreaker scenario where each council member votes for a different person. That'll result in a tie, and by statute, the mayor can break that tie, and she'll cast her vote for one of the 4 that has been previously selected by a council member. That person will move on to the second round, which will leave us with 3 people. The statute requires us to limit that down to 1 other person by means of a coin toss. So we have 3 people. We'll put their names back in the bowl. The city recorder will draw 2 names. The person whose name was drawn first shall have the option to call heads or tails. City recorder will flip a coin, and the winner of that coin flip would advance to a second coin flip with the other person whose name wasn't drawn. The person who participated in the first coin flip will be able to call heads or tails, and the winner of that coin flip will advance to the second round of voting, which we'll talk about here in a moment. I know that sounds confusing and unnecessary. This is not my decision. This is the statute's way for breaking ties. Once we get to the second, a two-way tie, meaning we have 2 individuals, they each have 2 votes. Or sorry, we have 1 individual with 2 votes, 2 individuals with 1 vote. At that moment, at that time, the mayor will break a tie between the 2 individuals with 1 vote, and that person will move on to the second round. Any questions from the council? All right, during the second round of voting, the mayor will not initially vote. Each person will receive 1 vote. If neither party gets a majority of the vote, then the mayor shall break the tie, and that person will be the candidate selected to fill the remainder of the vacant term. The votes will all be done by a piece of paper that has been placed in front of the council. It has their name on it. They will select somebody, they'll write in their name, they'll be gathered by the city recorder, and the city recorder will read off the name of the council member as well as the name of their vote for each round. This is required for our minutes so that we know who each council member voted for the record. Any questions from the council?
Mayor, I do have a question. Brad, if a second round is necessary, are we planning on speeches or questions to the 2 candidates that would advance to the second round?
We had not planned on that. That is not something that's brought up in the statute. I would defer to the mayor, as this is her meeting at this point, if she would like to do that. If she decides to do that, then we probably should decide now.
So, council, that's a good question. If we narrow it to 2, if the way the process plays out makes it so that we have 2 finalists, then would you like to allow them any more time, or would you think that this original time where each person is given 3 minutes would be sufficient? Any comments or thoughts on that?
Mayor, it might be well to be able to ask questions again to help us differentiate between those 2 candidates.
I agree with Councilmember Higginson. However, I would recommend that we put a limit on it, maybe per number of questions per council member, or a time limit. I don't know, maybe a question per candidate, per council member.
Okay. So just to clarify, if we have 2 finalists, would you like to give them a minute or something? Would you like to give them time for them to speak? Or would you like to just have a questioning time from the council?
My preference would be that we allot each candidate in a second round 1 minute, and then I do like the idea of each council member having the option but not the requirement to ask a question to help make the decision.
Does that sound good to everyone?
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
Okay. So if we do end up in a final round where the other candidates are eliminated and we just have 2, then we will plan on a 1 minute, additional 1 minute speech from them and time for questions. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and
Any other
Councilman.
questions?
Anything else for me? All right, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, thank you so much for that explanation. We will, if there aren't any other further questions from the council, then we will begin our process to hear from the applicants. and we will consider, we will listen to each applicant. Each applicant is given 3 minutes, and to determine which applicant will, each applicant will be determined by pulling the name out of a bowl. And so Shauna Andrus, our recorder, will draw a name, she'll read your name, and after she reads your name, then it's your turn to come up, and then you will have 3 minutes. And right here, this timer is counting 3 minutes so that you'll know that you're sticking with the time frame allotted. And then after you speak for 3 minutes, there may or may not be questions from the council directed to you. And then when that time is done, then you can just have a seat, and we'll move through all of the applicants. So any other questions from the council before we begin? Okay, thank you so much. Shauna, if you wouldn't mind reading our first.
Okay, just wanted to show you that they're all the same size, the pages, and so they're all the same color. And I'm going to fold them in half and put them in, just so you know that there's no favoritism or whatever. If I can separate them.
And just as a clarification to make sure everyone is aware, there was one withdrawal. Millie Barr did withdraw her name from the
Thank you.
applicant list.
I forgot to mention that.
Thank
sorry.
you, yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's see who's first. Mr. Ron Mortensen.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Ron Mortensen, and I think you all know me. I've attended many council meetings here. I'm a veteran. I'm a retired American diplomat serving in 6 embassies around the world. I've responded to humanitarian crises for 15 years overseas and been blessed to be able to save the lives and alleviate the suffering of literally millions of American people. I'm a board member of the Bountiful Veterans Park Foundation, and I'm a member of the American Legion. I'm running because when you look at it, there are no voting members on the City Council who reside south of 1800 South, and we're in an area that we haven't had a councilman for as far as I can remember, really. So we could also use some age diversity on the council, and I bring that. I want to just point out that there are some key areas that I'd focus on is that I would really focus on the fight that we have with the legislature. The legislature is passing tons of mandates on us, and they're taking away the right of the council to vote on certain things and turning it over to unelected staff. They are passing density mandates, they're passing homeless mandates, and they're even talking about putting fees on our culinary water. So I've worked at the legislature before. I've literally gotten sponsors and passed some of the major legislation up there, one of them making it possible for us to make our voter records private. I also got Utah's E-Verify law passed, and the 2024 privacy bill that was passed last year, HB 494, I played a key role in that. Anyway, if I'm elected, the other thing I'm concerned about is the viability of Bountiful Power. Bountiful Power has traditionally been really great because they've had a strong source of coal-fired generation and stable power. That has gone away, and so going forward, there's going to be a challenge to make sure we have a stable source of electricity. I'm also worried about the cost incurred by the Echo fire that's going to come back and the power company probably will have to pay for. And I'm worried about the competitiveness of the power company because right now our customer service fee is 49% higher than Rocky Mountain Power. In the summer, our rates are 8% higher than Rocky Mountain, and right now they're 24% higher because Rocky Mountain lowers their rates during the winter. I worry about large apartment complexes coming into the city because that can bring a series of problems. We've seen what's going on in Harriman and other areas where non-citizens are moving in. And there's a series of other things. Fluoride in the water has become an issue because there's been a study done on fluoride finding that it impacts the IQ of children, and so I think the council will have to look at that. And I'm out of time, so I thank you very much for taking time and listening to me.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you. Council, any questions for Mr. Mortensen?
I've got a question, Mayor. Thank you, and thank you for the service that you've rendered in the community and in the many ways you mentioned. You mentioned in your application and tonight the need for West Side representation, and I am curious about what your thoughts are about Bountiful's current policy of the at-large election process.
Yeah. I would probably support, I would support a study at a minimum of looking at creating districts within the city. And an easy way to do that, I believe right now we have 4 participation zones in the city if somebody wants to collect signatures for referendum. They're all already equally divided by population. So we could have 4 councilmen, 1 elected in each of those 4 districts, 1 at-large council person, and the mayor elected at large. And that would give people in the various areas more representation. The other thing it would do, right now if you run, you have to run citywide. You've got to go to 40,000 and 50,000 people. And in the early days, Bountiful was only 10,000 people, so it made sense at that time. If you divide it into 4 districts, we'll be back to where we were.
Thank you. Any other questions?
If I could, Mayor. Ron, you mentioned the fluoride issue. I believe the fluoride issue was decided on a county level. How would you go about tackling that as a council member?
I would work, one, with the legislature to change the legislation at the state level on fluoride, and I'd also work with the county health department and the county commissioners, because the problem with that study, there was a court case that came out of that study, and the federal judge instructed the EPA to come up with new standards. The problem is if it takes them 5 years to do it, and we're still putting in the same level of fluoride, which could be harmful, there's an issue there. So I'd work with the legislature to get the law changed and let the counties make without going to another vote.
Mayor, I have now thought of a question I'd like to ask Mr. Mortensen. Ron, this is a unique process where the new council member will be voted on and selected by 4 council members and potentially the mayor, rather than the people. So how would you balance some of the items you would want to tackle with not having had those ideas necessarily vetted by the full electorate of Bountiful? Where do you think the balance on that is?
I think if you're a good council person, you'll keep your ear to the ground. You'll be out talking to the constituents, to the people. I think there's a way to create surveys or events for people to give you feedback on all of these things. And I don't have the answer to all of these, but I think they're serious issues that the council is going to have to address. Whoever's selected, these things aren't going to go away. They're going to have to be looked at over the next years or 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks so much. Okay, we are, our next interviewee.
Mr. Keenan Price.
Good evening. First of all, I am not related to Miss Price Hewish, so don't consider that as disqualifying. I'd like to begin with stating, as I'm sure you've read in my questionnaire, that I have extensive experience within municipal work, working for different cities and the state, Bountiful being one of them. And so that would allow me to hit the ground running. I am already familiar with the operations of the city. I have good working relationships with many of the department heads. I notice Mr. Benson and Mr. Hill are here, and appreciate them spending their evening, even though I know they didn't have to. But I have working relationships with them. and as a council member could easily step into Mr. Bell's spot and carry the work forward. Not only do I have a knowledge of the operations, I have a master's in public administration as well as a Juris Doctorate, which would inform my policy creation, making sure that the operations are aligned with the policy and policy with operations to create the best results. When those don't line up, often there's frustration on both sides, as well as the community wondering why things aren't happening, and especially happening efficiently. My work in the community is extensive as well. I worked with Mayor Harris on the Close to Heaven statue in the Babyland part of the cemetery. I know that was a personal effort for many people in the community and staff members in the city as well, having lost a child, or, in my case, a young brother. But also, I am community-minded and service-oriented. When I was on the employee committee here in Bountiful, it was my idea that we create the Employee Day of Service, which has evolved over time from first cleaning up the cemetery to the Bountiful Pond and planting flowers on Main Street. My focus, or areas of focus, would be first, risk management. That was some of my area of experience in municipal work. I'd like to work with Mr. Jepson and focus on how the city can more fully implement the Utah Governmental Immunity Act, as well as parks. My children spend a lot of time at parks and how we can improve those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What questions do any of you have for Mr. Price?
Mayor, I'll probably make this a standard question, so everyone can prepare. But I'm interested in your thoughts on, again, that balance of ways that you would dedicate or place emphasis on council service, having been potentially vetted and selected by the council, versus all the voters of the city of Bountiful.
Yeah, so obviously this position will be up for election within a year. The council priorities won't be set until January with the next budget, which I think would give any of us the opportunity to really solicit feedback from residents on what they would like to see, as well as merging that and creating a collaborative consensus with the five of you, and how to balance that obviously would be running for election. Personally, I don't think there'd be that much ability to create waves in such a short period of time before facing an election. If it is possible, and I think that balance would certainly fall on, again, resident engagement and deferring to the already elected members of the council and their mandates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor, I have a question. Thank you, Keenan, for your application and for being here tonight. You mentioned your extensive city-wide experience and the need to invest in infrastructure projects to secure and maintain kind of the Bountiful we'd like to see in the future.
Yes.
So I have kind of a specific question about that. How would you suggest we move forward on infrastructure projects and plan and execute in ways that are inclusive of those with special needs or disabilities?
Yeah, as I mentioned with, risk management, I know the city has a sidewalk program. I think that which would be removing trip hazards and grinding those down, I think that could be made even more extensive, such as ADA ramps for all sidewalk crossings. I know there's a list in the city of where those don't exist, and we could work to prioritize that list that creates more of the ADA ramps, as well as creating protected walking zones. I fully recognize the cost. You would explore it, but obtaining right-of-way, expanding, safety areas. We all know that the sidewalk on Orchard isn't great. It's right next to the road. And I think long-term, maybe 10, 20 years from now, that hopefully that could be fixed. Certainly those areas.
Thanks. Any other questions?
I have
Thank
one.
you.
I have one,
Okay.
sorry. Hello, Keenan.
Hi.
Good to see you. Are you finding Bountiful, do you think Bountiful is finding the right balance between homeowners, renters, and small and large businesses?
Yes. I think there is the right balance. I think the unfortunate thing is beyond the city council's control with the economy, that with prices going up, that is just something that this council couldn't really address. And that's what I think is turning some of our housing stock from single-family ownership towards rentals. But the housing stock itself, I don't think needs to be fundamentally adjusted. I think we know the areas where increased density should go and where it shouldn't, and that balance is pretty well established. I don't think anybody wants to see a gas station on Bountiful Boulevard. That's just not what anybody would want to see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next applicant.
Miss Beth Child.
I think it's a very unfortunate reason that we're here today. Jesse leaves an empty seat that's impossible to fill in quite the same way. And Cami, we appreciate you and your family, wish you all the best, and I admire your strength and courage. It's clear that everybody here loves Bountiful. I love Bountiful too. This is where my husband and I decided to raise our 3 children. I love everything that Bountiful has to offer, the people, the sunsets, the proximity to the mountains, the wildlife, except the wild turkeys. But more than that, I love what this city offers itself. Thoughtful policies, low taxes, running on a lean budget, city-owned power, the landfill, Bountiful Town Square, the festivals, the concerts, and of course, the world-class snow removal. When my kids were going through Bountiful schools, that's where I jumped in to serve. When they served on Bountiful City Youth Council and on student government at Bountiful High, that's where I donated my time, in addition to other service activities. I eventually wanted to broaden my ability to serve in our community, so I ran for city council in 2021, and I have a storage unit full of dusty signs to show for that. As you know, that means I've already invested my time, my money, my blood, sweat, and tears required to ask the people for the privilege to serve on the city council, and I'm willing to do it again. After the election, I searched for other ways to serve Bountiful. That led to my current service on the Bountiful Community Service Council, South Davis Community That Care Coalition, and chairing TEDx Bountiful. I serve Bountiful in other ways as well, including an assignment to learn the ropes and chair the Bountiful Handcart Days Parade from 2025 to 2027. Here are a few of my priorities if you select me to serve on the council. Maintaining and improving our high quality of life, finalizing the general plan, putting the codes in place to make it come to life, supporting Bountiful City Power, marketing Bountiful Fiber to get the take rate we need, continuing to improve the trails, the parks, and revitalizing Main Street, increasing volunteerism in Bountiful, especially in younger generations. Here are some things that I think I bring to the table. Education, master's degrees in working with minorities and youth, diverse experience serving across Bountiful. I work well with people, even on their bad days. I listen, I ask, I do my homework. I love homework. And I will make informed decisions that are best for Bountiful, even the difficult ones. This quote from Alexis de Tocqueville expresses how I feel about city government. Local assemblies of people constitute the strength of free nations. And I'll end right there. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. What questions do you have, Council?
If no one wants to jump in, I'll jump in with my standard question. How would you articulate your philosophy of priorities as a council member selected by the council versus priorities that would come from the people?
I think being appointed by the council right now would be a very collaborative project initially, working on what you're working on, with the knowledge that I have had the people vote for me in the past. I would like to do my homework, I mentioned homework, to make sure that what I'm voting on, to get a real background in what I'm trying to do, and talking to the people, trying to understand their feelings on things. But I would come to it with a spirit of collaboration and of learning, honestly. Thanks.
Beth, if you were selected this evening, would you run again for office for the same seat a year from now?
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Dust off those signs.
Thank you, Beth, for being here tonight and for throwing your hat in the ring in this way. I have a question. One thing you mentioned in your application is that you have walked many streets in Bountiful as part of that process of running in 2021. And I wanted to know if during that time and during that process, did you hear from residents or listening to residents there on their doorsteps, did anything that a previously held view change because of listening? And if so, what and why?
Yes, I spent quite a bit of time to the west, I guess, of Orchard Drive. Those are communities that I don't know the people as well, and I really wanted to hear what they're thinking. I did hear a lot of what Ron Mortensen was talking about earlier, that they would like some representation down there. I know there were great concerns with Washington Park coming in. They were worried about the noise. They were worried about the traffic and things. And I feel like those were addressed, those were expressed during that process. But what I think it really opened my eyes to the fact that there are many bountiful neighborhoods. My sense of what I know does not cover everything. And I think it requires a lot of listening, a lot of asking, and a lot of going to people where they are.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Von Hill.
Thank you. I believe you've all read the questionnaire, so I won't dwell on things that I said there. Our family moved to Bountiful in 1959, and I've watched Bountiful over many years, and we're fortunate to have very many good leaders and good staff that formulated Bountiful from that era and even earlier up to now. And I would like to be part of continuing that. I know I'm older than most of you here. I've operated business here for many years and have enjoyed that. But I think that I hope in 50 years they look back at the decisions that we made now and think like we do of those that made those decisions many, many years ago that impacted Bountiful greatly. So I want to continue that line with many of the decisions that we make don't have immediate benefit, but they do long-term. And I think sometimes we have to make decisions that may not be popular, but I think that's what we have to do in order to assure a great future for Bountiful. Things that we have taken and enjoyed, like the power company, the water company, all of our services are an envy among many cities. My own personal philosophy on decision-making is one that we need to make sure that the process is adequate. I learned a long time ago that what is perceived as truth is often more important than what the truth is, because people act on perception. They don't act on what the truth is. And so we need to assure that whatever we're doing is perceived in a correct light, and I think that just takes time, takes consensus building, and takes effort to help people to understand why we are doing what we are doing and the future and the vision that we may see for that. I'm standing here essentially because I enjoy serving. I've been here in the area a long time, and feel that my experience and knowledge of Bountiful and the infrastructure, all of those things that have taken place here, could be an asset going forward. And that's why I entered into what we're doing now. That's really all I have to say. So if you want to start questions, I'd be glad to answer anything.
Thank you. What questions do you have, Council?
Mayor, if I could. Vaughn, as you use your crystal ball and look into the future, do you have any specific ideas or projects you think the city needs to be working on so that we can demonstrate the same foresight as our ancestors did?
You know, I think the power company has been a real plus for Bountiful, and it's evolved and it's changing as conditions in that change. And I'm sure that they're on top of that they're looking at that. But I would, there was a time when Bountiful power rates were always tried to be like 10% less than what the utilities were going, and market changes have made differences in that. But I think that that's happening. I think they're adjusting to that. I think that, a real concern, as is everyone in the state of Utah, is affordable housing. I think there's things you can do to move the needle, but I don't see, because of market forces and as long as there's more demand than there is supply, it'll remain that way. I'm not overly optimistic. I wish I were more optimistic about seeing significant changes in that, but I just don't think the market will allow it. My own daughter, after we came home from being away for a few years, left the state basically because they couldn't afford to live here, and that kind of hurt. But I know there's a lot of talk. I think our accessory dwelling units help address some of that. Anything we can do to put more housing units out there. I think as we look at infill pieces, which are largely what's left, there's very few large tracts of land left in the city. I think we can look at, maybe there's more tools that we can look at to help that. I know that always becomes a big issue. I don't have the answers, but those are the things that are left for Bountiful. Bountiful is long. We used to always say that we were built out, and yet we continue to issue building permits, and not significantly numbers dropping or things. We tend to do the same amount, but anything we can do to help affordable housing, I think, is a real priority going future for us, for our children, grandchildren.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'll ask the same question, Vaughn. Sorry, would you like to go ahead?
Okay. Oh, you go ahead.
Do you want a paper, rock, scissors for it?
Flip a coin.
Vaughn, I'll go. Same question I've asked everybody. Where's the balance? How will you decide where to put your emphasis and time based on being selected by the council versus the people of Bountiful?
I have a real interest in planning and zoning, having served there for many years. My own personal emphasis is that, because maybe we can move the needle in affordable housing in that area. I'm one that I really believe in trying to build consensus and understanding about how we should be. To be honest, I'm not sure I'm addressing your question the way you intended, but you know, as a council, I don't see a great need to divide the city up into districts for council people. I think it's fine the way we represent at large and generally, and I think we have to be cognizant of people throughout the city. I grew up west of Yuma High School, lived there for 20 years, and I know there was always kind of some division, but I never felt it was significant as far as that goes.
Thank you.
Well, first, thank you so much for being here tonight, and thank you for applying for this position. It's clear you have a lot of experience and a long time presence here in Bountiful. You mentioned that you're an engineer and a big fan of Bountiful Trails. You mentioned that in your application, and I'm wondering what are your ideas or opinions or anything that you've thought about or looked at as far as like an urban trail system in Bountiful that could be used by cyclists or pedestrians? Maybe bringing your engineering background to that.
I mean, there's some areas that works well. I mean, it would be great if we had better bike access on 5th West or 89 and got it on 4th North. Unfortunately, we just don't have widths to do that. 5th South is the same way. All those areas, Orchard Drive to some extent, at least that area, as we go to the north or to the south of 5th South, becomes problematic for pedestrian and bicycle access. The challenge is there's just not right of way to expand in those areas where we need it the most. And I guess realistically, I don't know that we're going to get property owners to contribute much in those areas. So those are the areas that to me are the most critical. Other areas have fairly good shoulders, and I think doing bike paths and which we've done to some extent, and I know that's on the radar for everyone to do that, but I would think that we expand that where we can, but the areas that pose the most dangers, unless we really want to fork out a lot of money on buying right-of-way, I don't know how realistically we're going to change that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Questions are answered.
Mr. Bruce McCabe.
Mayor Harris and members of the City Council, I'm grateful for the opportunity to come before you and share some of my thoughts and ideas with you. My name is Bruce McCabe, and I've been a resident of Bountiful for 37 years. I've raised my family here. My family and I have been recipients of the great lifestyle of living in Bountiful, Utah. It's a well-run city. It's a great city. It's conservative. It's safe. Many great benefits from living in Bountiful. As a newcomer to city politics, I have to be honest, I don't really know all the ins and outs of the issues and demands on the city. But some things that I do know is that the role of a city council member would be to establish laws and policies and to manage the city budget, determine tax rates and tax fees, and passing resolutions, providing community leadership. And I'm sure there are many other things that I've probably left out. Collectively, we enjoy a fairly affluent lifestyle in Bountiful. Our city enjoys a favorable reputation. It'd be the envy of many other communities. People would love to live in a city like Bountiful. But there are also people in our community that aren't as fortunate. We have people that struggle with mental health issues. We have people that struggle with physical disabilities, financial hardship, aging, other issues. All those people also require a voice, somebody to be their advocate. As a council member, I would seek to direct attention and effort towards those kinds of problems. Those in the minority do need attention. But those are also complex problems and require best thinking and efforts. I've thought what I would want if I were sitting where you are tonight, what I would look for in a council member. There are various traits that I think would be important, first being the ability to communicate. There's obviously different personalities, different outlooks and views throughout our city, somebody that could communicate well and be a listening ear to what needs to be said. Somebody that has organizational ability, somebody that's objective, that could listen to opposing viewpoints and arguments and then decide best for the city which course to follow. I may not be perfectly suited to serve on the council, but I do know that whoever you choose will have to go through 3 doors. First, they're going to have to go through the door of having a serious desire. Second, they'll have to go through the door of having a willingness to serve, and they must be willing to work. So thank you for the opportunity of presenting some ideas tonight.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mayor, I'll ask my standard question. Bruce, thank you so much for your time and for putting your name forward. How would you balance that question of where you'd place emphasis based on coming into this process from a council election versus having emphasis on your priorities vetted by all the voters of Bountiful?
That's a very good question. I think I'd start with some kind of a needs assessment to find out which people are in need. I know there are people that live from paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes there's needs for food. So it's a very good question. I don't really know how you determine that and then construct a program to deal with those needs, but that's an effort I'd like to see.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a quick question on what do you see as our city's biggest achievement over the last few years?
For the city or for me?
For the city, what would you see as being our biggest achievement over the last few years?
I think the city does a really good job of patrolling our streets, keeping crime under control. I think some of the civic events and activities that the city's done, I think they've done a really awesome job.
Thanks.
Bruce, thank you for being here tonight and for applying. I appreciate a lot of things that you've mentioned here tonight. One thing that you wrote about in your application is your commitment, and you just referenced this, your commitment to public safety and the police department in Bountiful, and a need to continue to have a safe and, mainly a safe community. So as a council member, this is something that does weigh on us a lot, funding and making sure that we support our police department. I'm wondering, what do you think the council could do to help with recruitment and retention of our excellent police officers?
Of law enforcement officers. It's a good question. I think it's a hard job to be a policeman. I have a son-in-law that's a lieutenant in Centerville City, so I have a little bit of an insight to what goes on. I wish our communities were crime-free. Unfortunately, they're not. There's a lot of forces and influences out there that particularly that affect our young people. That's a huge concern for me as a parent and also as a grandparent of 21 grandkids. I see the terrible effects of drug abuse, and unfortunately that exists in our schools and our community as well. As far as encouraging officers, sometimes I know that all organizations everywhere across America have a hard time recruiting and hiring people right now. I think you have to make the jobs as attractive as possible in terms of compensation and benefits, and help them see the mission of what we'd like to see happen.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Willie Lanier.
Greetings, Bountiful City leaders. My name is Willie Lanier. You have the difficult task of choosing the best leader among really exceedingly qualified people, and I'm honored that you can be a part of this process. You have my written application, so in my 3 minutes, I'd like to give you an example of my leadership, and by telling you the story of when I led the collaborative effort to implement Test to Play and Test to Stay in Utah schools during the COVID-19 pandemic. It was November 2020. COVID was on the rise, but Governor Herbert did not want to close schools, and his team asked me to use the new rapid test to help keep schools open. Then the governor paused all extracurricular activities except for a high school football championship if the players tested negative. I built a trust-based team of health and school partners. We got it done, and high school football was saved. I called this program Test to Play. Then the governor said, do that for all high school activities statewide. We knew we didn't have enough personnel to pull that off, but everyone had a shared motivation to save their activities. Students, parents, coaches, superintendents, elected leaders. School partners offered a solution, turn every high school into its own testing clinic. Everyone got on board, we trained, distributed PPE, and quickly stood up about 200 self-staffed school testing clinics. Test to Play went statewide. Activities were saved, which helped youth mental health, and the periodic testing helped decrease COVID transmission. Based on this success, local health leaders had another great idea. During a COVID outbreak, instead of closing a school entirely, let's test the whole school, and everyone who tests negative can continue in-person instruction. We leveraged the Test to Play infrastructure, worked with partners, and implemented Test to Stay, which saved over 100,000 student days of in-person instruction in the first few months and became state law for a time. In my public health career, I have been privileged to consistently repeat this pattern of collaborative leadership, recognize a gap, build a trust-based team of partners, gather the best ideas, inspire the team to rally around a shared vision, and then help the team accomplish remarkable things. I'll do the same thing on the Bountiful City Council. I don't think you're necessarily looking for the person with the most experience in city affairs or the most compelling set of policy priorities. You're looking for the right person, the right leader. I pledge to carry on Jesse's legacy of compassion, integrity, service, and leadership. You can trust me to work really hard, learn from you, and ask residents for their opinions, build trust with community partners, collaborate towards shared goals, and bring all my passion and experience to the table to help make the best decisions for Bountiful. Thank you.
Thanks. Questions?
Same question, Willie. How do you decide where you will put your emphasis based on this unique process by which you might become a council member?
So I think a leader should have the right mix of confidence and humility. And one of my mantras is this: I have good ideas. You have better ideas. We have the best ideas. And I do have some ideas now, but the truth is I won't really know what the most pressing issues are for the city until I join this team and continue to ask the residents. For one thing, I would ask residents by surveying them. I think the city council could greatly benefit by surveying the residents and just soliciting ideas, and then carefully consider those ideas as a council.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions?
I don't have any. Oh, you're good.
Okay, Willie, thank you so much for being here tonight and for sharing that experience with Play to Stay or Test to Play, and for throwing your hat in the ring. One of the things that you mentioned in your application is promoting affordable, creative, or equitable housing policies. As other people have touched on this, it's something that is top of mind. We can have some role, but there are other forces. I'm also. But I'm wondering if you have any Bountiful-specific ideas that might help address these issues of missing middle housing or affordable housing.
Yeah, well, I know this issue has been studied a lot by better, housing minds than me. So I don't have the magic bullet for this, but I do believe, I chose those words carefully and with intention, creative and equitable. I think that there's ways that we can look in the existing map of Bountiful, as has been mentioned, we're pretty much built out. So we don't have the luxury of big tracts of land to do new things with. So we've got to kind of take the pieces that we have and see if we can create new lots or new, perhaps smaller housing options. And then equitable, I think we ought to take a look at, I remember in one of the city council meetings, we looked at, the cost of homes goes up as you go east. And I think that zoning has at least something to do with that. And I think we ought to take another look at that and just say, is there a reason necessarily that as you move east, the zoning policies would seem to favor larger homes, larger lots, and more expensive? I think we should just take a look at that so that, everywhere in the city there ought to be a chance for people of even, modest incomes, they should be able to live.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Yeah, one maybe, although it hasn't formulated completely in my mind yet. So how would you recommend we make equitable or equitably priced residences available in all zones in the city? Would you use city funds? What would you do?
Well, I'd really want to learn more about it and I know this is a very complex issue. And so, again, I approach this with humility. I don't have the magic wand or the silver bullet for this solution, but I'd really want to dig into it and figure out exactly what are the zoning policies in different parts of the city and how can we look closely at that to accomplish the goal of increasing affordable housing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Richard Watson.
Hi, thank you for your time. You guys know who I am, so I'm not going to introduce myself. I would like to start out, by the way, there's so many great candidates here. I feel like they're so much better qualified, so I'm going to try to do my best and tell you why I might be qualified. I would like to fulfill Jesse's vision of Bountiful, and he was a great neighbor. In fact, I love the Bell family. They're great neighbors, and they live just a block from us. So, and I miss their walks coming by our house. Anyway, so I'm proud to serve Bountiful, and I've been serving Bountiful for quite a while, but I want to do more. And there's so many things great about Bountiful. In fact, some of the things that I do that are part of Bountiful's great, and it's not because of me, but it's because of the organizations. First off, I'm an instructor in Bountiful CERT. We have the best CERT in the state of Utah, and we have a trophy to prove it. I'm a board member of the Bountiful Food Pantry, and recently we've been on TV. We're one of the best pantries in the state. You guys are familiar with Music in the Park. That's our concerts. And we're one of the best top free concerts venues in the state. And this is coming from musicians that perform at our concerts. They tell me that all the time. And I'm a member of the Bountiful Rotary. and this is coming from other people around the state saying we really are the best Rotary in the state. And recently, this past year, I was called to be Director of Entertainment for Handcart Days. So I'll be doing that for the next 2 years. It's kind of like concerts in the park, really. So, and just recently, the last few months, I've been hearing from outsiders. Oh my gosh. Anyway, we have a great golf course. Let me say that you guys have been talking about bringing in restaurants. I'm pro economic development. I am. And I want to help the arts, the Bountiful Arts. We want to collaborate with Summerfest and bring in more mini concerts so we can bring in outside people, because that's what restaurants need, is outside people, not just us. And that's what's going to drive Bountiful to be even better. So why do I want to do this? Because I want to serve more. I know that people are going to look at Bountiful and say, this is a great community, but I want them to say, like in that baseball movie, that's the best community that ever was and will be always be better. And I love Bountiful. I love the Bell family. And I love you guys because you guys are great.
Thank you so much. What questions do we have for Mr. Watson?
Mayor, if I may. Richard, thank you so much for being here and for all of the many, many years of service. I do have a question, kind of just jumping off of one of the things that you mentioned and was in your application about economic development. And speaking of Jesse's legacy, he talked about that often in our general plan process. I'm wondering if you have any specific ideas about how to promote economic development within Bountiful.
How to promote it? Well, I think...
Encourage.
Encourage.
Percolate.
Well, you know, if you build it, they will come type of thing. And I think we need more small businesses, because that is what drives and is the heart and soul of a community, is small business. And I would love to help try to bring in more. I don't know if I answered that question. Is that so? Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one, Mayor, if I could. First, Richard, I want to say that this is an incredible slate of applicants, and both educationally and professionally and also service-wise, and you fit right in there. So thanks for all the work that you've done for the city. You've been incredible at that. Thinking of the events that we promote in the city, do you see any holes that we have that another event might be brought in that would expand our offering and could succeed here in Bountiful?
Another event?
Yeah.
Well, I've been talking with the Bountiful Arts over here on Main Street, and she seems to think that'd be great because she's still new to Bountiful, and by collaborating, we can bring in some, not just our regular concerts, but she thinks we could bring in concerts on like Town Square, and what a way to drive customers after or before to some of our businesses around here. And that's the whole thinking of collaborating culture events with economic development. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Thank you, Richard, for putting forward an application. Thank you, as everyone has said, for all of the service you already give the city. I see you out there so many times, you know, sweating through the summer, getting concerts ready, so it's very much appreciated. How would you decide how to spend the balance of your time, and where would you put emphasis given this format versus a traditional election?
Well, I think I have mentioned economic development, and I know there's plans right now in the works bringing in some restaurants, which I think is a great idea. And I'd like to maybe help with some ideas on coming up with and strategies and improving that, and especially along 5th South and Main Street. That's probably where we need to focus on. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had one. It's just Edward, on economic development, and Richard, your service and is a great example to any resident that has a desire to serve without needing to have a seat at the table. You do an amazing job behind the scenes, and we're very fortunate with what you do. On the economic development, are there things that you've thought about or see as creates a hard barrier of entry for businesses to want to come to Bountiful, whether it's location or an ordinance?
I think what I've mentioned, some of the events that we do, and then just the nature of our community, and people talk about our community outside of this area, and we know that we're great, but other people actually look at us and see that we're great. So I think we could promote that, saying that this is a great place to live and do business. And that would be our selling point. And it's a lot of cities say that, but we can prove it. And so that would be the way to promote these businesses to come in. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Dan Bell.
Mayor, City Council, it's good to be with you. It's good to see you. I want to begin just thanking you for the opportunity to say a few words to you, and really with an expression of appreciation for the time you do spend. You know, we rely on you, and we're grateful for your leadership and the service you give. It's been interesting, as I saw the list of candidates the first time, I recognized a number of names that were neighbors and friends, and people I've known either directly or indirectly over the years. And it's a wonderful thing to have, I don't envy your task, but it's a wonderful thing to have such good people who are willing to serve. And so I kind of applaud those who've put their names forward. I think with the time I have, I think I will just focus rather not on my resume and things like that. I think that's in some of the things I handed in. But I did want to just talk a little bit about my opportunity and the experience I've had serving on Bountiful Power. I think many of you know I've served on the Bountiful Power Commission for just past 10 years. And that's been a wonderful experience for me. I've got to know Alan Johnson, who leads that department, the amazing Bountiful Power staff who does a fabulous job, and also other commissioners who I've had a chance to serve with over the years. That's been a wonderful experience for me, and to see just what goes on behind the scenes and how much effort is put forward. I think they do a fantastic job. I've had the opportunity to interact with a number of you over those years because of that experience, and I've enjoyed that, whether it's at educational conferences and the various budget sessions and things we've had the opportunity to do. But I'm certainly a strong advocate for Bountiful Power and how it's being led and run, and what an asset it is to our community. I recognize the significance that it plays in the budget for Bountiful, and also our taxes, our tax structure. So it is significant, and I've learned a lot. I've enjoyed that. For me, I would say that has been a highlight, and so I thank you for the opportunity to serve, Mayor. That's been a great opportunity for me. I would say, just in a final comment for me, I recognize the importance of being a team player. This process is different. I'll answer your question before you ask it. This process is different, and my expectation would be try to come on and be meaningfully contribute, but recognize the direction, the priorities have been established. We're late into a term, and so for me, it would be to meaningfully contribute, but also recognize where we're at in this process. Again, thank you for your service. Thanks for considering my application.
Thank you. Any other questions?
One, if I could, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, I think that you and I agree that in the coming years, nuclear power probably will play an important role in our, hopefully, in our resources. What do you think we can do to help grease the skids on that process and bring the big power companies to play with the little guys?
Do you know, it's a great challenge. We spent a lot of time, as you well know, working down the nuclear power, trying to get involved and trying to get new scale to move forward and to be part of that, and realize the cost was just so prohibitive because we're not one of the big players, as you just mentioned, Richard. I found it interesting today, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal, or AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, is talking about nuclear power. They want to get nuclear power, and they're talking about committing big dollars to that. And it's those type of players, obviously, that won't affect Bountiful Power immediately, but it's what we always wanted, a bigger player, right, Richard? And it's going to be a challenge until we find it, you know. And I do think steps like that, though, that happen across the country, that's driven by AI, the need, you know, the power for AI. As that happens, it will trickle down, and I hope faster than not. But it's just not, it'll be very challenging for Bountiful City to commit to something like that, and to be a big player in that as the costs continue to rise as they finish development. And so I hope that answers that. But all that we can do, we try, and we have tried, and so, but thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mayor, if I may, Dan, thank you so much for being here tonight, and thank you for serving on the Power Commission. I have the enviable task of being able to serve as the council rep on the Power Commission right now, so I enjoy serving there with you. One of the things as a council member is we're constantly shifting seats, and we serve in many roles, rec district, on commissions, councils, boards, and committees, service committee, power commission, planning commission, et cetera. And I'm wondering, if you were a member of the city council, what other areas would you be interested in serving? What other things other than the Power Commission might kind of spark your interest, knowing that we all serve at the pleasure of the mayor? But just curious, what would be of interest?
Well, I wouldn't say, Cecily, we enjoy you on the Power Commission to start, so thanks. It's great to serve with you there. You know, I think you know, my background is I came from the financial services industry. I'm a CPA. I'm pretty comfortable in all those settings, obviously, anything that's financial, but I'm interested in a number. I wouldn't honestly put a limit on that. I recognize when I put my hat in the ring that that could be anything, and I'm willing to try anything that the mayor felt like that I could do. But I don't have a specific area where I would say I would need to be in that or that. I have an interest in serving in the community. I've had this opportunity at Bountiful Power. I feel like I have more to give. I'm at a top point in my career where I can do that. And so I'd be willing to do a number of things.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm not asking my standard question because you did answer it in your 3 minutes. So just to be fair, I'm acknowledging you answered it. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Well, I hope I said it, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gary Birdsall.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, council candidates, and those in the audience. My name is Gary Birdsall, and I'm delighted to be here to validate my interest in joining you on the City Council. First, I want to express my deepest sympathies to your family on the loss of Jesse. That's a tough reason to have to fill a council seat. You've seen you see my resume, you've seen my application, but I do want to just kind of reiterate a few things. My business ties in this community run deep, especially back in 1999-2000. I was the president of the South Davis Chamber of Commerce, and then involved with government officials, business owners, and other chambers to create what is now the Davis Chamber. and they celebrated that successful organization. Well, that would have been back in 2020, and it was fun to be part of that celebration. That'll always be one of the milestones of my professional career. I want to also, before I go further on business, I moved to Bountiful in 1975 when I married a woman named Paulette Class. And I thank her for joining me tonight. She's always been there to support me. She taught Spanish at South Davis Junior High for 30 years. There may be people in this room who either had her as a student or you had kids who had her as a student. She is a award-winning educator, and I'm delighted to have her here this evening. In addition to the Chambers of Commerce, additional Chamber of Commerce, I just retired a few months ago after serving 11 and a half years as the president and CEO of the South Salt Lake. Initially, that was tough to say, South Davis, South Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce. My board and I got heavily involved working with the mayor, the council, business owners, and anyone involved in the process of running that city. Close ties with the city council. We got involved in strategic planning, long-range planning, and celebrating successes, having fun. If we're not having fun, we're not gonna do it right. And the end result of that was just a rewarding career for me. And I just had my retirement party a week ago, and you realize how many friends you're leaving behind. And I swear this time I'm gonna do my best to stay in touch with those folks. And now that I have retired, I'm focusing on some veterans issues, but I do have the time to serve on the city council of Bountiful, and I look forward to doing that. My focus has always been on people, and any organization I work with, and I appreciate your time, and let's have a great evening. And congrats on the other candidates.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Birdsall?
One, if I could, Mayor. Mr. Birdsall, where do you think the most glaring hole in city services is right now?
A hole in city services?
Yeah. What do you see as the biggest thing lacking?
I would hate to use the term hole in city services. Frustration on, well, let's start with traffic. Between 5th South and 4th North on Highway 89, and I realize that's a joint operation between Bountiful and West Bountiful. Traffic in and out of that major development, I think that's all in the city of West Bountiful. How that's resolved, I don't know. I'm surprised there haven't been more actions on that stretch of road. I go up 2600 South when I get off the freeway. And that's the corner of, again, West Bountiful, North Salt Lake, and Bountiful. And I presume there's great working relationships with all those cities, with the Utah League and others. But I can't, and I know that involves UDOT because you've got US 89. But somehow my fingers are crossed, can't there be better traffic flow? For sure, east and west along 2600 South. At times from the old highway up to Second West, it's especially the right lane and those trying to get in and out of Nielsen's, which we all love. What's the solution there? It's better timing on lights, but that involves working with UDOT and 2 other cities. So probably traffic, and that comes with a growing population.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Gary, how would you decide how you would spend your time given this process? And how and why would you place emphasis wherever you would choose to place it with council service?
The first thing I want to say, and those of you who are on the council, I would think have to agree with this. I think one of the reasons there are 4-year terms to an elected 4-year term is the first year you're drinking out of a fire hose. There is just so much getting thrown at you. And I would come in with no axes to grind or no priorities or anything else, but working with the folks who are already there to find out what are you working on, what are your priorities, where can I help? My time in South Salt Lake gave me the absolute luxury of spending a lot of time with the South Salt Lake Police and the South Salt Lake Fire. So public safety has always been, because of the last 11 and a half years, has been a real love of mine. Economic development, I did that. I've done that with every company I've really worked with business development, business growth, adding new businesses, working with businesses that have issues, that type of a thing. So economic development, public safety, and listening to you folks because you're in it. I'm not in it. But that first year is crazy. It has to be absolutely crazy, and I just love that term. I didn't make it up. Drinking from a fire hose.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Any other questions?
Just Wanda, just off your experience with the chamber, where are some areas Bountiful could do better that you see in attracting businesses to Bountiful?
Economic development is not just Bountiful, and I know that's probably what's going on here. It's not just Bountiful. Every county, for sure Salt Lake County is that way. Davis County, I'm sure, has a strong economic development team. And they've got talent and they've got funds. So I'm assuming that partnership is really quite strong to help once we as a council with input from our neighbors and our business owners. By the way, customers in this city, I look at everybody as a customer, are the residents of the city and the business owners of the city. And not a lot of cities see that, and I'm pretty sure Bountiful sees that. But economic development is a partnership, and it's competitive. How do you deal with an outfit that Centerville wants and that you can't have, especially when it comes to high tax producing outfits like auto dealerships? But it is a partnership, and that partnership can move forward. Once I found out again that first year drinking from a fire hose, what have you been working on the past few years, and how can I help?
Thank you.
I hate to dodge your question, but I wouldn't just jump in flailing and saying, hey, I want to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Adam Hughes.
Hello. Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Hughes. I've lived in Bountiful my whole life, almost. I really wanted to thank all of you for your time and for this consideration for this position. If I'm selected, I would like to continue the work of those who came before me by continuing the great tradition of the citizens of Bountiful, by helping those who are in need, whether it be in a windstorm, fire, earthquake, flash flooding, or just being your neighbor. I want to support those in our city by listening to them, working beside them hand in hand. Together we will accomplish our goals. And I want to support our local businesses and let them be successful if whatever way we can do that together, listening to them. I believe in being fiscally responsible, not making too many choices that aren't good for the city. I want to stay within our budget. I don't want to add any unnecessary taxes that we don't need, because no one likes to pay taxes. I believe that our freedoms should be protected. We should have affordable housing for everyone. I support those who have mental health challenges or hidden handicaps. They're everywhere around us. They could, even in our homes, and our neighbors, people we talk to every day. I want our children to grow up in a place where they are safe and they can be playing outside in parks and anywhere in the trail systems. They need to have a clean environment where we don't waste water and have clean air. I want them to be proud of our city, as I am. I know how to solve problems. In my line of work, I'm an IT network engineer. I work for a global company where we not only deal with problems locally in Utah, but we also deal with them around the world. I know how to work with these people from different cultures, different backgrounds, to come up with a common solution to fix problems. I know that if I'm a part of this council, there's nothing that we can't solve together with each of you and with the citizens in this town. And my name is Adam Hughes, and I approve this message. That's all I got.
Thank you. Questions?
Mayor, if I may. Adam, thank you for being here tonight and for submitting an application. I really appreciate what you talked about those with mental health challenges and hidden handicaps. One of the things that I think ties in with, or a question I have that ties in with that, is often we have priorities, as have been discussed as council, and we discuss those every year and set those. But how do you think we can better communicate or engage with residents who are not actively reaching out, so we know that we are better reflecting the needs of maybe the hidden communities that might need additional assistance
Right.
or support?
That's a good question. I think for a lot of people from COVID, a lot of people just stopped being around people. They don't like it anymore. I know people from works and different places I've talked to, they have a hard time dealing with people. I know that we could do better. Maybe we have more individual sections of the town have little gatherings instead of just one big society gathering. We can start getting more information from the local neighborhoods, getting them more involved that way through either city parks or through whatever concerts we want to set up or anything like that. We can set up surveys, we can do lots of things, hit the road if we need to. I think that there's a lot of different things we could do, but that's something that we can look into for sure with everyone else.
Mayor, if I might. Adam, it's been a while since we saw each other
Yes.
at Bountiful High. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
So I'll ask my standard question. How would you decide where you would spend the balance of your time and efforts and energy as a council member?
Great question. I'm glad that you asked everybody the same question. I think for me personally, it's nice to know that for this, we didn't have to run for an election. So it's easier to get the kind of the ball started, get the ball rolling, where we can learn on the job. And then so next year we can plan for a better election. We can know what we're going to do. We know you can kind of get used to people can get used to you in the city, not just a name that. I know a lot of people who just drive by and see names on this corner and don't really know who they are. So I think that's probably the best starting position, and then kind of go from there.
Thank you.
Question, if I could. Adam, you mentioned aversion that most folks have to paying more taxes and also preservation of freedom.
Yep.
And then you talked about affordable housing. Would you be willing to tax your neighbors and subsidize housing so it could be more affordable for others?
I don't think that we need to tax them. There's other ways we could do it. Maybe give them more incentives to maybe use their land to do tiny homes if we need to. I know that that's a controversial subject for some people, or even a family compound. I know other cities are looking into that as well. I think that would be something that we should look into. But I don't know if we need to raise taxes for that. But maybe we can think of different incentives or credits that we can give to the citizens to make it more manageable for affordable housing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Alex Densley.
All right. Council is very familiar with me. I'm Alex Densley. Born here, raised here, third generation here in Bountiful. My grandparents came here in the early 50s, raised their family. My dad decided to leave Bountiful for a very, very short time and then came right back. When I graduated college, I had the opportunity to, figure out where I was going to live, and I picked Bountiful. And that was over 10 years ago. I bought my first little home in Bountiful, and that was my first experience with the city, as the power department came and put a lovely yellow note on my door of this house we were trying to purchase, informing me that the power was condemned and that we had to get a whole new service to the house for them to even energize it. That was my first experience with the city. From there, I have done multiple things with the city as a whole. I've come to multiple planning commissions. I've run for city office myself. I was there that night when Kate was picked last time, where we had like 43 of us, 45 of us. It was a lot of people in here, this room. I've been in this room as we watched it get renovated. I have been here and assisted inside the community as a whole. For the past 20 plus years, I've helped put on the Coats for Kids car show, setting it up, tearing down, putting in my own vehicle, expanding upon it. I have donated time to the Bountiful Museum and assisted in their expansions when they've built, helped them with electrical building and multiple items there. I've also assisted with the handcart days, as many others have mentioned in this capacity. I've also volunteered multiple times in the community and seen work alongside of you, most recently with the council up at the Bountiful Bee, cleaning it up, bringing along my little 6-year-old who had a hoot and a half and a holler with it. I've also been fortunate to work next door at the Veterans Park and helping try to assist and put that together, which was very important to me because I do have a friend's name sitting in a block over there, unfortunately. With that being said, I've worked with you guys on multiple items throughout the years. One of the things that I pushed for 10 years ago with another gentleman named Seth Wright was to have all our city council streamed, which we currently have the capacity to do now. That was one of the main items we pushed for. I've worked with you guys to get working on city code and different projects in there where portions of my emails have literally made it into your city code because of the collaboration that we've worked on together to come with a better idea. I've been here at times where we may not agree on the exact same thing, but we've always been able to maintain a good relationship with each other and continue to move forward. Things that are important as you are, as a council, as you go forward with it all. With that being said, I'm here. I have wanted to be here. I continue to be here. I continue to be involved in the community. And so I look forward to hopefully filling that seat as somebody who has, for the last decade, shown interest, shown heart and soul in wanting to be a part of this city and to be used in that capacity.
Thank you. What questions do we have, council?
Alex, I'll ask my standard question, and thank you for being a son of Bountiful, willing to give back to Bountiful. So how would you spend the balance of your time if selected?
You bet. So with that being said, I know that the council, from watching all the videos and physically being here, there's a lot on the council's plate right now. Probably the largest thing is your general plan, trying to finish that up. I'm not here to try and make waves or create changes there. I know that there are several big ticket items that just need to continue to move forward in the direction that they have. With that said, I also recognize, having had 2 homes in this city in 2 different areas and having friends in multiple areas of this city, that there are some concerns that they would like to be brought forward to the council that aren't necessarily, you know, on fire, but are on the back burner and would like to at least have the city be aware of and start to look forward to in the future.
Thank you.
That's how I'd split it.
Any other questions?
I've got a question, Mayor. Alex, thank you so much for being here and for being a super engaged resident. It's really appreciated, actually. And I have a question because you do attend a lot of meetings, and so, even budgeting meetings, and I think you understand some of the difficulties that we face. And I'm wondering, what do you think the city can do to better support and retain our employees that have experience and institutional knowledge, especially those that we know have to live within a certain response time, and as they're looking at affordability and what we have to offer as a city?
So if I understand your question correctly, it's what can I do, or us as a council, to retain the current employees? Is that correct? Okay. I think that's a multiple facet question in that capacity. One is, as everybody knows, you have to be competitive. Salaries, benefits, the things that you look for in your own jobs. You know, if those needs aren't being met, then you're going to start looking at other places. The ability to be within a certain response time, that's going to be a really hard one, because we're built in, our next door neighbors are pretty well built into, and so you have this new dynamic that we don't have versus some of the newer cities like Eagle Mountain, Harriman, Saratoga Springs, some of the ones where they still have the ability to expand. So in that capacity, I think that there are options that we can look at as a council, whether that is, you know, providing some subsidiaries to certain important personnel to assist with them, being able to, similar to like first-time teachers that can get the additional funding for them, I think there's multiple facets there that haven't been looked at that we could look at.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just one on with the different meetings you've attended in that, are there any current city ordinances that you would focus on improving or adjusting?
I think there's several city ordinances, having attended all those. I think that there's several that we have moved in the right direction. Like I look at our latest and greatest one for the park strips and where it was and where it's come to. I think that is leaps and bounds of where it was. I think it's just a process of going through our codes and seeing what makes sense, what's a little archaic, do certain things make sense anymore as our city continues to change. Some of that I think also needs to be addressed just because our city is aging. And so some of those ordinances and ideas that we have were based on new build, new construction, new abilities, where now we're transitioning from, hey, we're all new builds to we're older. And so just going through it piece by piece, and then also looking at the different communities, because based on where I've lived, different communities have different issues with the ordinances based upon what the code was at the time being built.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Cami Bell.
Good evening, members of the council, mayor, and city staff. Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you this evening. My name is Cami Bell, and I'm here to apply for the council seat to which my late husband, Jesse Bell, was elected. Jesse is known for his service to Bountiful in many capacities. As he served publicly on committees, commissions, and councils, I served privately, helping him with each project and initiative. As a family, we helped shape the values and goals that guided Jesse's campaign, earned him the trust of the community, and defined his service to Bountiful. My knowledge of and dedication to these same principles uniquely qualifies me to continue his work as a member of the City Council. The decision of whether or not to pursue this opportunity has weighed heavy on my mind and heart. I have tried to consider every angle, made lists of the pros and cons, considered advice and input of others, and prayed for a clear direction. Through this process, I've concluded two things. One, the easiest path would be to not apply. And two, that the unique contribution to the city of Bountiful that I have unknowingly prepared to make over the past years would be lost if I chose the easier path. Certainly, contributing in this capacity is worth both hard work and sacrifice. As I apply for Jesse's seat, I'm fully aware that I am not Jesse. For one thing, I'm more likely to take cookies to a difficult neighbor than debate zoning. But our differences were what contributed to our combined strength. He'd bring big ideas, I'd handle the details. He liked to dream out loud, and I made to-do lists. While he worked hard to stay diplomatic at meetings, I was the sounding board where he could vent, then listen to possible differing points of view and prepare to vote on tough issues. Together, we found balance. I'm ready to bring that same thoughtful approach to the council now. My incredible children are fully behind me in this endeavor. I am not naive enough to think this role will be easy. I understand the level of commitment required because we lived it. Jesse often missed important family events to serve, but my kids understand why these sacrifices matter. They know that this work is important, and they've encouraged me to step forward now, not just to honor Jesse's legacy, but to use the skills I've developed to continue to serve for the future of Bountiful. Even through the worst times, Jesse was blessed with the strength to contribute to the city, and I believe I will be blessed with that same strength to show up and serve with all my heart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What questions do we have?
Mayor, I'm happy to jump in. Cami, thank you for what your family has given Bountiful. Jesse was an honor to serve with and a dear friend. And I know coming tonight can't have been easy because a lot of things are still fresh, but I appreciate that you've thought about this and put your application forward. So I'm going to ask the same question I've asked everybody else. How would you decide where you would put the balance of your time if selected?
I also want to thank you all for allowing our family to serve alongside with your families. We have learned so much through that process, and I promise that if you appoint me, I will bring a caring heart, lively discussions, thoughtful solutions, and maybe even some cookies. The way I would proceed is that my goals are Jesse's goals. My story is Jesse's story. I would like to think that the votes cast for Jesse were votes cast for me, because Vote Jesse Bell was always a family goal that we worked hard to achieve together. So I would focus on the priorities that were most important to him: improving parks and continuing to complete the Trails Master Plan, expanding our urban tree canopy, continuing to update the general plan, because I feel like it will be depended on heavily in the future, working to find solutions for affordable housing, and strengthening city youth partnerships.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Cami, as you look at the city right now, what do you see as lacking in either services that the city offers or the quality of service that the city offers?
I believe in the power of positivity, and I like to think of myself as an advocate and not an accuser. So I prefer to look at the positive and not the negative. But if I had one thing that I would like to see in the city, is a stronger city youth partnership. My children are at an age where outside influences are huge in their life, especially because of our circumstances. I believe that the youth in our community need more cheerleaders. They need people telling them that they can do it, that they have gifts that maybe other people don't recognize. Maybe there isn't a team or a club that they can fit into in the high school, but maybe we can find ways to highlight them and spotlight them and help those traits shine. I remember being in the Capitol in DC and going down that corridor and seeing all the amazing artwork, one from each state, that the youth contributed to be there in the Capitol. And I just think what a feeling that would be as a youth to have that opportunity. And I think that there's lots of opportunities that we can provide as a city to build up our youth.
Thank you.
Cami, thank you so much for being here and your entire family. And we really do miss Jesse and honor his legacy and the work and service that he has given here to the city, and the friendship and that all of you have extended. I'm really touched by many things that you've said here tonight. I do have a question, though, and I appreciate that you're focusing on some of your traits that are different than Jesse's and the characteristics that you can bring. I'm, as you know, that as you even mentioned, sometimes a family member gets vented to. And anyway, I just thought, sometimes we do have a split opinions or split decisions concerning city policy, legislation, or program. And I'm wondering how you feel like what you could bring to help resolve a difference or even a conflict and bring people together or resolve an issue in an amicable way.
I have a bachelor's degree from Utah State in Family and Human Development from the College of Family Life. Being a mom and a wife was always my dream and something that I always wanted to do. But I also chose that because I knew how important relationships are in our world, and sharing ideas and understanding each other is so important in creating the best ideas. It's been said here earlier tonight that bringing ideas together results in the best possible solution. I believe that I bring that background of being a good communicator, an excellent listener, and being able to see all different sides of an issue. I have, whether it's a blessing or a curse, the ability to see the pros and cons in every situation. And being able to do that, I think I can bring people together and focus on the positives of those things and try to find a solution that benefits everyone.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jacob Olson.
Hello. So just introduce myself. My name is Jacob Olson. Originally from Idaho, born and raised. At 17, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, did that for 6 years, and then following that, I did 8 years as a police officer for Sandy City, and blew out my knee. And so now I'm going back to school. I'm at Utah State pursuing a natural resources degree. My wife and I moved to Bountiful 4 years ago. She's originally from the area, always wanted to come back, and I've really grown to understand why. The trail system, Mueller Park Canyon, is outstanding in my eyes, and I love the lake. Everything is just amazing here. My neighbors came and saw me on the first day. I've really loved the community. It's really tight-knit. And it's just something that I want to give back to now. Some of my passions have been environmental issues. Really want to beautify our open green areas. During the pandemic, we all saw how everyone flocked to be outside, and it really put a strain on all of our resources, our national parks. And I want to help out and beautify and expand on the areas that we have in the city to meet those demands and continue to be a resource that we can all use and hold city functions at. Another priority of mine would be the infrastructure. It's not really the hot button item that wins you elections, but it is the thing that everyone notices is when your water main breaks and everybody's flooding. Just seems to be that whenever the Weber water gets turned back on, we find where the pipes burst. And one of my priorities, if put onto the council, would be to find ways that we could be more proactive in our repair and maintenance. So that way we don't put a burden on the citizens where we don't need to, if we can fix things before they break. And if brought to the council, I know that I would not be an elected member from the populace, so I would balance my being brought on by the council by making sure my voice is heard with a differing perspective. But the course has already been set, and so to get in and help push the boat along to get to the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
One, if I
Mayor?
could, Mayor. Mr. Olson, it's been said that if you can't look your neighbor in the eye on a passionate issue and tell them no, then you shouldn't run for office. How do you feel about that comment, and what would you, how would that pattern your service?
I think that's actually a really good quote. That I think that we need to have those hard discussions of nobody wants to pay more taxes, but it's what gets things done.
It may not be the great thing that everybody wants to do, but we need to talk about and work towards the missing housing that's going on, whether it be accessory dwelling units, splitting duplexes to be multiple owners, talking about residential above commercial. If we just need to do what we can, we need to have those discussions with your neighbors, even if it's they get angry and they have their opinion, hear them, but also we need to have those discussions regardless.
Thanks.
Mayor, if I may. Jake, thanks so much for being here tonight. I've seen you attending a lot of meetings, and I really appreciate that level of engagement. You mentioned in your application, and it's a little bit obvious from looking at you, that you are a millennial. I'm using your own definition, that you're a millennial. And that's a really important demographic group in our society. And I'm wondering, in what ways do you think the city can best demonstrate, or, as Richard has said earlier in many times tonight, fill holes to attracting younger individuals or families to help keep Bountiful vibrant and a city that people want to come to?
Yeah, so I think that attracting and getting the younger workforce is already happening. We just don't really notice it that millennials are already here. There's already, Gen X and Z and A now, I think. They're already starting to appear, and we just need to listen to their voices, listen to their ideas. Some might be great, some may be bad, but just listening to what their ideas are, and coming with the mentality of, well, let's look at it and let's see why not we don't do that, or why we do something, instead of just, well, this is the way it's always been done, and so we just like this direction, we're just going to keep this. So I think that attracting those voices and hearing them is what's going to keep Bountiful ahead of the curve and keep on the cusp of being such a great city.
Mayor, I have a question. I acknowledge that you answered my question, so I'm going to ask a different question. But thank you for addressing the question I've asked all the others. In your application, you note that you are going back to school using the GI Bill. Thank you for your service. Do you plan on, if you were selected, would you plan on running for re-election, or would you be viewing this as a short term while you're finishing school and then moving on to some other type of career?
So we've been talking about that, my wife and I. The re-election would be about when I'm about to graduate. So I don't want to say for certain, yes, I'm going to run. No, I'm not going to run, because I can't really make that decision yet, because I want to be able to say wholeheartedly, I will be here, I will do this. I got to put food on the table. The GI Bill brings in just enough money to help pay the bills. It doesn't cover mortgage. And so at that time, I'd have to get a full-time job. It's a fisheries degree, so I would have to travel for that. And so if it's within the range, I would love to stay in the city, and I would love to continue and then possibly run a campaign. But if I can't pay the bills here, I got to go where the job is. So at this point, probably not running a campaign, but I am looking at fishery jobs and stuff like that close by, so I can stay in the city.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Well, we really appreciate all of you. As was said tonight, this is a little bit easier foot in the door for a council member than running a full-fledged campaign. But at the same time, we acknowledge that it does take courage and time to have gone through this process tonight. And so we really appreciate you, each one of you applying. And, it's a good problem that we have 13 awesome applicants. And so truly, we thank you for being willing to serve and being willing to give it a try. So thank you so much for your participation tonight. Before we move to the next step to vote, are there any other questions or comments from council members? Okay,
I don't have any questions, Mayor. I just want to say that I'm really not a fan of this process that the legislature has handed to us. I know that everybody that showed up tonight realizes that only one person's going to be selected, but under the system that was used last time, folks at least had the opportunity to have an acknowledgement of their goodness by a range of votes. And tonight we have one vote each, and that seems like a stark reality that we have to deal with. So I just want to let everybody know that, honestly, we think our applicants were awesome. And those who have been involved and are still involved in various capacities in the city is great in large part because of you and folks like you. So I wish the system was different, but it's not. Please know that I know I'm not trying to speak for the other council members, but in conversations that we've had leading up to the instigation of this process and as we started to get applications, we know that there are a lot of good folks that deserve votes. So please know that our hearts are with you as you deal with our stark reality as well. And thanks for participating.
well said.
Mayor, if I might, I would like to echo my colleagues' comments and express, I have unique sympathy and appreciation for all of you, having gone through a similar process several years ago. This is a different format, and it makes it a more challenging format. There are so many great names here, so many people that are currently giving service, so many people that, if not selected, would be great members of our Planning Commission, our Power Commission, our Trails Committee, our Service Council, and any number of other projects. And I would urge, because of this process and the fact that only one person will ultimately be selected, to not lose heart and to think that you shouldn't engage, because there are plenty of ways and plenty of room here for us to take advantage of all of the people of Bountiful's time and talents and energies to continue to move forward the things that make this a great place to serve. It will feel a little bit, this is how I felt several years ago, but it feels a little bit like you're watching an Olympic ice skating event and you're going to get to watch the scores flashed in front of you. And you'll have new appreciation for Olympic ice skaters and anyone else that ever throws their hat into this ring for this process, because it is just a little bit different. If this were a regular election, you could hunker down with family and friends to watch tallies come in, or hunker down by yourself, or be out at an election night party, but you'll get to experience it all together. And it'll make for a unique bonding experience for all of you. I know it did for those that I was in a large group of really wonderful people with in 2018. So thank you for being willing to put forth the time and being willing to step forward to serve.
Thank you. All right, we will now move to the voting portion. The next step is that each council member will make a selection and write one name down on their ballot. And Mr. Jepson, our attorney, I'll just consult you. We'll move forward now, and each council member will have one vote, and they'll need to select one person, and then our recorder will read aloud those names.
Yes, Mayor, that's correct.
Thank you. Are you collecting our votes? Okay, thank you.
Kate Bradshaw voted for Cammie Bell. Matt Murray voted for Beth Child. Richard Higginson voted for Dan Bell. And Cecily Price-Hewish voted for Beth Child.
Thank you for those results. So what is the next step then to proceed to reach our final two candidates?
No candidate has received a majority vote. We have Beth Child, who's received 2 votes, which is the highest vote getter. And now we have a tie between Cammie Bell and Dan Bell, which, based on the code in our form of government, now your vote will break the tie, Mayor.
Okay. I will now cast a vote for Cammie Bell.
Okay, so. So now we have 2.
Did we decide on another round of a minute more of interviews?
Yes, so now we will hear from Cammie Bell and Beth Child, and they will each have 1 minute, after which we will ask them questions if there are any. Do we need to proceed with?
Oh, do you want me to pull the names out?
Sure, if you would pull the names out and we can determine the order.
Cammie Bell.
I'm grateful, again, to stand here and have the opportunity to share what is important to me for our city. When we moved here 18 years ago, we had just lost an infant daughter, and we didn't know anyone in Bountiful. And we lived on a street that was not especially friendly. We moved in the winter and we're remodeling. I had 2 small children, Lydia and Lexi, and we didn't know anyone for months. And we decided we wanted to change that. So I talked about baking cookies. We baked cookies every Sunday, and we would run them to all of the neighbors and talk to them. And I am proud to say that today we know all of the people on our street. We hold Labor Day breakfasts and Halloween block parties, and we have created a community there because we opened our doors and gave our love.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really honored to be in this position right now. Thank you so much for your consideration. I am trying to think of what more I can say. I just commit to you my time, my energy to this city. There's so much for me to learn, but I promise you my best efforts to do so and to be a collaborator, to reach out to those that live in the city, to be a voice of reason when I can be. And I'd like to learn from all of you. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'd like to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Thank you. So now the next step is for us to cast, for the council members to cast a vote for one person, after which our recorder will read the names for that person, and we'll see if we have a majority.
Cecily Price Hewish, Cecily Price Hewish voted for Beth Child. Matt Murray voted for Beth Child. Richard Higginson voted for Cammie Bell, and Kate Bradshaw voted for Cammie Bell.
So now, just to be clear, I am the tiebreaker for the final round.
Yes, Mayor, that is correct.
Okay. All right. So I cast my vote for Beth Child. So if that is, I just want to make sure we're clear. We went through the process, and now that it was the last vote, and that determines our new council member.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions from any council members?
Mayor, would it be appropriate to give our applicants a round of applause?
Absolutely. I'm sure I speak for all the council members when I say that this was such a tough process, and we struggled as we read through applications, and I wish that we could wave a magic wand and have a number of spots that were available, but we really appreciate each of you for applying and for your work and for being here tonight. So this concludes our meeting, and we thank you very much for all of your work and participation. We are adjourned.